Well, good afternoon, friends. Welcome to Unbreakable Enterprises podcast. And my name is Teresa Poor, host and founder of Unbreakable Enterprises. And I am so excited to come to you today about what we are doing, not just in Austin, Texas, which we will talk about here pretty soon, but also what we're doing, not just in the United States, but around the world. My speaker and my friend and my partner that you're going to get to meet today is traveling all the way to us. In fact, he's back in time today with us, coming all the way from Japan. Coach Steve Anderson is a two-time Olympic medal coach who has been teaching the champion mindset throughout the world in many different avenues. And today he is going to talk to us a little bit about what it looks like to get into alignment so that you can live your full purpose. So friends, buckle up your seatbelt, grab your cup of coffee or whatever it is you are enjoying right now. And let's meet my friend, my business partner, and an amazing human, Coach Steve Anderson. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Teresa. Thank you. It's so great to be here. And yeah, here we are in Japan. So we are in a different time zone.
You are. It's so fun to say you're traveling back in time.
Yeah, well, when you get on the plane and you go through that date line, it feels like traveling through time when you show up and you lost a day.
That is so awesome. Well, Steve, first I want to say thank you for being present. Thank you for showing up in the way that you do in the world. You truly lead by example in the way that you show up with excellence and with that champion mindset. But I would love for our audience to just get to know the Steve Anderson. I would love for them to get to know you just for a moment before we dig into our conversation today. So what's going on in your world?
Yeah, well, it's a little colder here in Japan now. I've moved to Tokyo about 16 months now. And I've lived in many different places, Australia, Canada. First time I've been in a place where English wasn't a primary language. Oh. And that's different. Mm-hmm. That's really different. And my position here, I'm project manager for the Japan National Beach Volleyball Program. So I have a translator. English isn't necessary for my position, but it is for life. And it's really interesting since I planned to be here for a while and grow this project. It's really hit me right now how language, relationships outside of business, how important that is for me to develop those skills. Otherwise, the experience is totally different when I can't relate with the people here. So that's what's going on right now. I've been traveling so much. I've been focused on building the business. And now we're in our planning evaluation at the end of the season. All of our meetings, I'm getting on a train tomorrow and going to, Nagoya, where one of the major companies is. And so now it's settling down into life. And I'm so excited with what we're building. Yeah. Because, and what you've already created with Unbreakable Life, because this is something that really excited to be a part of. So thank you for that. And really want to provide this service for people to help, impact the planet.
Wow. Well, you're doing it, my friend. Yeah, I love how you talked about relationships and how critical relationships are. When most people understand the concept of, being an athlete, right? And when you're an athlete, you train to be the best. But Steve, you have just opened my heart and my mind to how much it takes to support athletes to be the best and how relationships are such a critical piece of that. And I would love for you to share with us, you talked about traveling to meet this organization, this company, and trying to bridge some gaps there. And, you're talking about having a translator so that you can see the people and you can relate to the people better. But can you tell me a little bit about how you've helped people really transform, and particularly through the lens of their community or their team?
Yeah, so we got to go back to young Steve.
Yes, take it back.
Tell a little bit of story here, how I arrived at this and why this was so important to me. And you said something before. You were talking about another gentleman. You talked about age 7 to 50 in the middle. Mm-hmm. And wow, it moved me. I was like, are you kidding me? The middle. And I had to think about, yeah, the middle is where it's all happening and how you get from childhood. I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. No beaches in Louisville. to, 1964, Louisville, Kentucky. I moved to LA, and that's where I discovered beach volleyball just before my 21st birthday.
Wow.
I had never seen the ocean. I'd never been to the beach. I've been to 5 Olympics for beach volleyball. We won a bronze medal. I was coaching the Australian women's team. We won a bronze medal in '96 in Atlanta, the very first time beach volleyball was in the. Actually, because we won the bronze medal, that was the first medal game at that Olympics. So my team is actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the first medal winning team in beach volleyball history for Olympic medal. If it was the gold medal match, we would have been the second team. But because we were the bronze medal match, it was actually the first medal match for beach volleyball. And then we won a gold medal in 2000. And it's really interesting when I think about, I've traveled the world, I've lived in many different places, but I started with this story, and we're going to get real today, by the way. Good. And so my dad got killed when I was 9 in Louisville, Kentucky. And it created this sense of responsibility to grow up and be a man fast. I was born in '64, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and help your mother, all this sort of stuff. But what it really did, there was these wounds and this feeling of lack. And my story that I made up was, I don't know how to be a man because my father wasn't here to teach me. And so when you talk about relationships and community, the first relationship is self.
Right.
Because how I'm going to show up in relationship with other people depend on who I am, how I show up with myself, especially in the dark when nobody's around, the true me. Because when we have any sort of conflicts or challenges, who's going to show up? Exactly. So that 9-year-old kid who wasn't prepared to be a man, but made up the story that, oh, I'm the man of the family now, who had to protect themselves, like, I'm not prepared for this, but I'm going to try. Whenever I would have conflict until I was 27, whenever there was major challenges or conflict, I would have this story running in the background. You don't know how to do that. You didn't have your dad here to teach you how to be a man. So how could you possibly do this? How could you achieve? How could you be worthy of this in your life? And so self-sabotage and all this stuff would happen. And it really hit me when I moved to LA and started doing beach volleyball. I was playing beach volleyball, pro beach volleyball on the AVP, Association of Volleyball Professionals. I was an associate member, so not full-time because I was still sabotaging.
Yeah.
Lots of talent, but I'm like, and my story was, I'm a 5'10" black guy from Kentucky who's out here trying to play. So I'm wrong place. I don't belong in California. Never seen the beach before. And, and it was a predominantly white, affluent sport. This is 1985 when I moved there. And so I just had all these stories about how I didn't belong. I didn't have a role model that I could look to. Wilt Chamberlain was there. I met Wilt, and he was playing a little bit, but he was much older. And so I had all this internal stuff. We're going to talk about alignment. I was totally out of alignment internally with my external goals.
Right.
And the life that I wanted for myself. And I didn't know how to bridge. I didn't know how to skills, and I relied on my talent. It was just, it was really interesting how to get from like that 7 to 50, to get from 9-year-old to a place where I would stop sabotaging and allow myself to feel worthy and accept God's gifts. And so a friend of mine was a Sikh, and he did some breathing with me and released this. I didn't know that I had this program running. It's unconscious.
Right.
But it keeps showing up. The 9-year-old keeps showing up, go, no, we can't do that. Right. And so I had this memory released, and I'm crying. I'm just crying because I've gone back to the moment when I found out my dad was killed, and this 9-year-old boy, and then thinking I have to be responsible as a man in my family now. I'm not prepared. And I'm back in that moment. Like, I'm literally in the space where I'm seeing my mother. When she just found out, she didn't know that I was present. I was in the hallway, all this stuff. And then I'm looking at my life, like I'm literally flashbacking my life, and I'm going, wait a minute, you moved out when you're 18, you moved to LA around 21, like you've done so many things. What are you talking about? That story works for a 9-year-old,
Right.
but it's not true for me at 27.
Right.
And that's where I I was in sales and marketing. I quit my sales job. I started coaching full time so I could be at the beach and I could develop myself as an athlete. And my coaching businesses blew up and just grew overnight. Like literally I had 13 clients and half of them were on the women's pro tour. And
Yeah.
I had to make a decision between coaching and playing full time at 27. And I chose coaching and building a business, which was my ultimate goal. But then that's where I really started to master myself, my trade, and become a student. The master is the best student. You're
Mm-hmm.
always learning and growing. And so going for and getting rid of this, severing the ties with this identity of 5'10" black guy from Kentucky, wrong place, too old, no history. I just had to forgive myself, let go of that story
Right.
to give myself the opportunity to be who I am now today
Right.
and get in alignment with my goals and everything else. And then the whole life just changed, and ever since then I've been on this journey to high performance journey.
Mm. Man, I want to just pause here for a second because I love this. You coach the top of the top, right? You coach the people that they're like, I know I want to go to the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
And so many, even high achievers. And I was thinking about myself, and I love how you talked about this encounter that you had where somebody took you back into your childhood, Steve, right? And I had a similar experience. I had an experience where somebody got me to be real still, got out of my conscious mind into my subconscious mind a little bit, and was able to take me back to a time and a place in my life where some traumatic events happened, and I was able to just love on little Teresa,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
just say, oh, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
And that permission to release yourself. Like, you were never supposed to carry the weight of a whole family. But
Yeah.
sometimes here's what I think, Steve. I think that desire that's in us to want to be like the human that God created us to be is in there from the beginning of time. And sometimes things happen along the journey that hijack and make us go into that mode before we were ready for it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right?
I totally believe that.
And then you don't know how and you don't know what. And so you're afraid of it because it feels too heavy because it wasn't the right time.
Yeah. I totally believe that. And I wrote a book and I really believe this: challenge makes the champion.
Mm.
And so, you know, need, desire, all these things, feeling of lack and trying to prove yourself. These are not accidents. This is stuff that gets you up off the couch and go do something, prove yourself. And along the journey, especially when you succeed,
Mm-hmm.
most people, they chase their dreams or not, or play a little bit smaller so they don't have to fail. When you really put yourself out there and you get some performance,
Mm-hmm.
there's a really weird thing happens, because a lot of what drives you is this is external sort of drive and force, what I call the promise. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's an unspoken promise. Once I do this amazing thing, I will be worthy. I will be safe. I will heal this wound.
Right.
And because a lot of people understand striving and
Yeah.
hustling and going for it, they could live their whole life striving for it, never reach their ultimate goal and feel like, yeah, that was a satisfying life because I got to chase what I wanted.
Right.
When you perform, when you have high achievement and you actually achieve at a really high level and your wounds aren't healed and you're not fulfilled, a crazy thing, you end up crashing. You either implode or explode.
Mm.
Because imagine this: being the best in the world at what you do and you still feeling unworthy or unlovable, all this stuff that that goes with the imposter syndrome.
Right. Right.
And then falling, and thinking, if this is not going to make me worthy, what do I have to do that's
Right.
going to do it? And then bottoming out.
Right. And just saying, forget about it. Like this is, yeah, you defeated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a crossroads. It's the decision. And here's the decision, right? When you bottom out like that, and people's experience it as burnout, apathy, whatever. When you hit that bottom, you got two choices. You stay in the bottom and you just live in the dark, and you really turn into a demon. You really just hurt people. You project all your pain and stuff onto other people because you got a lot of influence. You'll have money, you'll have power, you'll have influence, and all this pain.
Right.
And
Wow.
so this is the high achievement.
Sounds like a deadly combination, doesn't it?
It's incredible, right? This you got all this power and influence in all these different forms, but you don't have any purpose, higher purpose. You don't have self-love. You don't have all the things that allow you to use it productively because you're so, the person's so empty and
Right.
in so much pain. You have no choice but to use that to hurt.
Right.
You're hurting. This is the alignment. If you're hurting, if you're unfulfilled, and then you get influence and power, then how do you think you're going to show up in the world? It's
Right.
like the orange juice thing. You squeeze the orange juice is going to come out. Not apple juice, not pineapple juice. What's inside, when it's under pressure, when you're challenged, when your mass drops, that's what's going to come out. That's what you put into your relationships and into the world. What's inside, who you be. So getting who you be ready for the success that you're going to have in life. And that's higher purpose. That's the alignment. That's being love and abundance driven instead of scarcity and fear driven. Like there's so many things that you have to do. And this is, I'm a coach, so people always associate me with sport, but I've helped start 3 nonprofits. I've had my own high performance business, Champions Toolbox. We work with founders and business owners, and high performance is high performance.
Right.
And one of the things that people confuse is high achievement with high performance.
Right.
Because you can achieve at a high level and destroy yourself and your life and the people around you, your health, your relationships, compromise your integrity and still get great results. And I got to tell you personally, it really hurt me to find out you didn't have to be a nice person to be wealthy and successful. Like it really hurt my heart. I was like, really? You don't have to? And there's lots of people who have lots of high achievement who are empty and so much pain and don't have any higher purpose, because the first thing you have to do is you have to be fulfilled and happy and cool before you get squeezed under pressure.
Right.
Yeah. So, but high performance has to be sustainable and scalable. And so when I do my coaching, I ask people this question. So I'm going to ask you the question, and then you can do it. So if you achieved 100% of your goals that you set in life, 100%, but it cost you your health, your relationships, your integrity, all the things that other parts of your life that matter to you, would you call that success?
Absolutely not.
Okay. If you achieved 50% of your goals, but it enhanced all the other areas of your life, would you call that success?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, here's what's really interesting, because everything we do, I'm an Olympic coach, I'm an Olympic gold medal coach. All we do is periodization. It all has to be science-based. We have to justify everything because we have to get performance on the day.
Right.
And we work in 4-year cycles. And we don't pick the day we don't pick the location. We don't pick the day. Right. We have to, when the opportunity's ready, we have to be ready. So it's not like
business. Isn't that life? I mean, I think about, so we had this season, and I just want to piggyback on that for a moment. We had this season with my daughter. She was in competitive cheer. And during the pandemic period, most of the facilities where they would go and compete at were shut down because obviously you can't have thousands of people in there when we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
So they were still allowed to practice and they were still allowed to submit their routines. And so literally they got to this point where every practice was stage performance. Every practice.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. There you go.
Because they didn't know when it was going to be the best one.
Yeah. Okay.
And so the best is what they submitted. But every time they had to be ready as if it was the event. And, you know, I remember in my banking days, Steve, I watched this training. It was a corporate banking training. It was from the 80s and they were still playing it in the early 2000s. It was kind of corny. But one of the comments that this guy said on this training video is he said, you must pretend that every time you show up, it's like opening day on a performance, right? Every time you show up for a customer, every time you show up for your team, it's like opening day of the grand event. And I think that's really what you're talking about too. But in order to get there, you have to master some things. So what are some of the mastery skills that you teach?
Yeah, so I make a lot of distinctions, which are mental tools. It's not just, metaphors and all this. I talk a lot in metaphor and stories because that's the way the unconscious brain works, right?
Connects the dots, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times I want to bypass the conscious mind, which is judging and all this other stuff, and fear-based and focus. And we have so many systems inside of us, reticular activating system and all these things that help us look for the problems in the world that we need to avoid. Like, so the reticular activating system is one system inside your mind that sorts. It's a sorting system. So through all of our senses, we get 11 million bits of information, like that's coming in each second through all of our senses. We're not aware. But if I pointed your attention to it, like you would think there are sounds in the background.
Right.
The air is moving around you. So your whole skin, which is one of the biggest organs in your body, you're taking in all this information.
Yeah.
We do a lot of things unconscious, like walking, breathing. It's the autonomic nervous system is taking over. So we're getting all this information and stuff we're not consciously aware of. And what's really interesting, you can consciously focus on like quality, like 9 things. You can focus on like 50 out of the 11 million.
Right.
So what the reticular activating system does, it does 2 things. One, it tells you what to focus on because you gotta allocate resources to that thing and take actions to take it from your imagination and thoughts and bring it into your real life experience. Right. So the reticular activating system, based on your values, your history. So think about this. A lot of times, history, there's trauma, there's learned experiences, societal norms, there's all this stuff that's unconsciously forming you that you start to say, well, this is important. This me belonging is how I stay safe. Well, how am I going to belong? And a lot of high achievers is like, well, I'm going to achieve I'm going to be so useful.
Right.
And I'm going to be so good at what I do that I'm going to be safe because I have a place in the world and people are going to accept me. And, so then you just become so unreasonable about achievement at the sacrifice of all the other important things in your life. And you'll hear people who own and run businesses, entrepreneurs who, well, I'm doing this for the family and they'll understand. And your kids want you to be there. You're like, you missed another birthday and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, and then this fractured relationship, and you were doing it consciously because you wanted to provide for your family, but unconsciously it was doing it because there's this wound or this hole that needs to be filled that you can only get yourself. That's right. That's all good. So with the reticular activating system, its job is to focus on the things that you say are important, whether it's conscious or unconscious, important to your survival, really. But its other job, the real job, is to scare the crap out of you, so you don't pay any attention to the other, 10,990,000, none of that stuff. And then once we look at society and the dangers and perceptions and all the stuff society tells you, you overlap all that stuff. So you're in this perpetual state of caution and fear. And this is just part of evolution. This is survival of the fittest. All of our social hierarchies and everything is built. So we're going to survive. We're going to be the ones who get to procreate, all this stuff.
Right.
So when you're not aware that this is how you exist in the world and that this is a real system inside of you, you're not in command of it. You're just on automatic pilot and being driven by your past traumas and experiences, codependencies, all this stuff. But once you become aware of it and you become aware of yourself, you don't get rid of it because it's there for a reason. It gets you off the couch, gets you, and your purpose is programmed into you.
Yeah. Man, Steve, I love all of this. And, I think about the work that we do with Unbreakable in the Unbreakable Life program. The first place we start, the first pillar before we go anywhere else is all about identity. The second is mindset. And the third is beliefs, because those three are really what's running the show. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, out of everything, we don't even talk about performance until we've dealt with that. Right.
Well, that's the whole thing. So with coaching sport, coming back to sport, we can work on so many different things, especially if it's physical or technical. There's so many different, and you always, it's not something that you achieve and then you sticks. You always have to reinforce it. You're getting older, technology's changing, rules are changing, all of these. So you're always working on the physical and technical to just to be competitive.
Right.
But it's the strategic and the self-management that elevates you to a whole different level of performance. And most people never get to it. They're constantly focusing on the physical, technical. I'm going to be a technician. I'm going to get better at my craft. You're picking the wrong play.
But society, or through, the infrastructure that supports us, right? That's what we're taught. Like, from a young age, thinking back to our formative years, we are taught to get good grades, to learn a skill, to learn a trade, but nobody is teaching about identity, right?
Yeah.
Nobody. Now, there may be some ideology happening and some brainwashing happening, but nobody is teaching, okay, who do you be? You are a human being.
Exactly.
Who do you be first?
That's
and
right.
then you can go and become, right? One of my friends and partners, her name is Vidya, and she has an organization called Austin Businesswoman, and her theme is be and become. And I love that, because as a human being, that's where we start. And Steve, when we think about, all right, so and I would love for you to talk a little bit about Unbreakable Champions. So let me just pause that. We'll put a pin in it for a minute. Okay. But when we think about what we are creating with the Unbreakable Conference, the year of alignment. Alignment means so much to me right now. And I know it does to you, and I know it does to Dr. Val and to Jerry. And, and I think about alignment. I think one of the first things, like when your vehicle gets out of alignment, like we can, again, speaking in parables or speaking in metaphors, right? When we see a vehicle that gets out of alignment, or when things start getting off on it, there's usually some warning signs. There's some vibrations in the tires. There's a shaking in the steering wheel. There may even be a sign that pops up on your dashboard, right? Mm-hmm. So the first thing is to recognize. And I think with the work that you do and the work that we're building together with Unbreakable Champions, there is some recognition that must happen to get back into alignment. Like, that's the first step. The second step is recalibrating. And I think, as you talked about 9 to, where you're at today, the middle piece, and each of those little moments, and some are little, some are big, some are humongous, right? The things that have happened in our lives, and they all become moments. And I feel like the recalibration piece is, all right, I'm living this moment from this perspective at this time, where I'm at through this focal point. But in about 2 years, when I've grown and I've done some developing and I've lived past it, I can recalibrate and I can go back and I can see it from a different place, right?
Yeah. So you're in Texas. I'm from Kentucky. I don't know if you've been to a high school reunion. So I haven't been to many.
Oh, yeah. We just had one this year.
Yeah. So, and I've lived out of the U.S. since. Started in 95, but I really moved in 97 when I moved to Australia. And so coming home to Kentucky, everybody's going about their life and everything, and I'm away. So when I come back, 2 things happen. My old friends and family, they know Stevie, me as a young person, because I also remember I moved to LA just before I turned 20. So I come back, everybody starts calling me Stevie, and they've got an identity of me that they need me to be. Exactly. Well, even before, there might be a childhood relationship. We're in school together and all these sorts of, so we go straight back to that place. And I always find it interesting when I see people who are living the heyday,
Mm.
like when they're still wearing, I got a friend still wearing the same style of clothes in high school when
Yeah.
they were the big shot, like in high school and all the girls and all this, but then they just keep, that's their identity.
Right.
So we're so, as kids, we're so malleable and everything. We have, our job is to grow as kids. Otherwise, if you didn't do this, like you fall down a couple of times, you wouldn't walk, right? You go, oh, no, can't do that. But as adults, we get to this place where we go, oh yeah, that's me.
Right.
These are my values. This is how I think. This is my identity. And then we might stack on some things, but we keep reverting back to this past identity. There's a structural, it's called structural tension, builds up. We have this old identity that we get anchored to,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have a future identity that we want to be. And this
Right.
is yo-yo dieting, it's all this stuff. It comes from this structural tension. So as we start to imagine two rubber bands around you, like big rubber bands, right? One's anchored in your past identity that you stuck with. That's like, yeah, this is me. This is my politics, my values, everything, my histories. Okay. And then you cast out into the future who you want to be.
Mm.
And it creates this tension.
Mm-hmm.
But where you are, and people stick, they get stuck and they get comfortable when their past identity is not painful, like it's not causing them a lot of pain, like, hey, I'm stuck, I got to move from here. So there's no reason to move forward, and there's nothing really inspiring them. So when you get really comfortable, you're just stuck in that space. Not a bad thing. It just means, you're just doing the same. You're being the same.
Right. Right.
But when you get challenged and things happen, you go, no, I can't stay in this identity. This is why it
Right.
becomes past identity. And so you start moving forward.
Mm.
And at the same time, you get this vision of yourself in the future, you need to be. So this starts to create this tension from this future identity that you want, that pulls, it's like this rubber band has so much tension, it's pulling you forward.
Mm.
And as you start to succeed becoming this new identity or acting this new identity, you start moving forward, the tension on the future you starts to relieve.
Mm.
So as you move toward the rubber band, if it's anchored, the tension is literally going to slack. It's going to relieve. But the past identity tension
Tightens up.
tightens up. The people who don't want you to change, the people who have a relationship with you feel betrayed
Right.
or confused when you start to become, and then they start to say things like, "That's not really you. I know who you really are," and all the stuff. It's just all this, and you say it to yourself.
Right.
And because we're not really the future identity yet, we start sabotaging because all the comfort is in the past identity. Even if it's painful, we know it. And who we're going to land on in the future, what our life's going to look like in the future with this new identity, scary.
Right.
Super scary.
Right. And so that system in your brain is saying, abort, abort, right?
It's so, and that's why and so you use discipline when you're really committed to this. You don't have a habit or a lifestyle that aligns with new identity. This is all about alignment. You don't align with who you aspire to be. You know you need to be it. It's calling you, but you don't have the habits, the value, the beliefs, the identity. It just doesn't match. You're out of alignment.
Right.
And then you don't know about this structural tension. So as you start to move forward, you're getting all this challenge and resistance. This is perturbation. It's like water about to boil or anything that's going to change states from like physical, like solid to gas or whatever. It goes through a state of perturbation. Like everything's just so disturbed. It's ready to go. The molecules, like everything's ready to change. If you continue through that state, you break through and you're literally new.
Mm.
If you let the temperature down or like trying to break through a balloon, when you try to push through a balloon, it gets thinner. And if you keep pushing, boom, you break through. But if you relieve the tension, you go back to the old position, the old state, right?
Mm.
And so people hate the perturbation. They hate the turbulence. and the
Well, it's uncomfortable and people are mean to you sometimes. And I think that's where you talked about relationships earlier, right? And you talk about, okay, where you're at in Japan, that's new territory for you. It could be easy for Steve to want to retreat, but you have a big mission around this entire world, right? And I know that your mission is even, and I dare say this, because the Olympics is the top, but your vision is beyond even that, right?
So, and this is one of the things I'm going to talk about, right? At our UnBreakable conference and
Well,
everything.
don't give all the details because I want them to come.
I'm,
But you can
know
give
what? I used to guard this because I'm like, well, first of all, we evolve, it changes, I've evolved. People I coached in the past, there were certain sayings and things that we used to do that is not even part of my like coaching platform anymore. It's there, but I've evolved, my coaching evolved. So I met a guy, I can't remember Phil, I can't remember his name. There's he's in documentaries. He climbed Mount Everest. This guy from Australia. And they've done documentaries and stuff because they lost people. They got trapped and they lost people and they had to abandon and all this kind of stuff. So there's documentaries about it and stuff. And I was in a Dale Carnegie course with him, and the guy it was really fascinating for me. Now he was a businessman, he was older, and at the time he was the Australian who had scaled Everest the highest and all this kind of stuff. And he lost toes on that. Like we lost people and he lost toes. Like it was crazy. And he talked about, when you climb a mountain, and this is the way I have this model for success now. Mm-hmm. I'm only going to give one component.
Okay.
All right. So for me, there's surviving, mm-hmm. which is what we have learned to do as human beings, mm-hmm. because every cell in your body wants to survive.
Right.
It's just inherent. And there's all these challenges and factors that, have caused us to create all these systems, hierarchy, like who's going to get to procreate, who's going to have money and influence. And we have war and armies. Okay, well, I'm a government, pay me taxes and I'll protect you. There's all these economic system, education system, religion. All these systems are set up so that we can live together in harmony without killing each other and all this sort of stuff. And people just accept their position in life. Mm. And with the industrial age, when you moved out, out of your family and rural, and you came to cities where you didn't have support systems, lived together and worked a factory job for 30, 40 years and try to retire. So you only had just enough education to read and not hurt yourself, read instructions. And so all these systems were debt system. Everything was set up to help people accept their role in society when we really were forced together. And it was functional. Now it's not fun. We're out of the industrial age. A lot of these systems are antiquated. They're not functional, especially with these young people, with AI, robotics, all the stuff in the future where a lot of occupations, manual labor stuff is just going to disappear. Driving yourself, all this stuff it looks like it'll change sometime in the future.
Very soon. And
it's happened so rapidly. Change used to be years, and now it's just like, bang, it's happening so fast. So we don't know what, we're not built, our systems aren't built for this, and we're not built for this. So one of the things so we have to change our mind. Right. And this thing what Phil was talking about with climbing the mountain really fascinated me. So we know how to do survival, and then we get into the striving. Like if you're going to climb the mountain, you want to summit, you want to reach the top. And this is what high achievement is. And on this side of the journey, it's rough.
Right. I was at the gym today and I was on one of those mountain climber things. Yeah. It's called Jacob's Ladder. Have you been on one of those before?
No, but I know what Jacob's Ladder is. That sounds bad.
Let me tell you, I was like, I never want to climb a mountain. Like your whole body is involved. So yes, I think I did reach the summit at least today.
and imagine everything, altitude, the whole, like all the stuff that happens, right? And so I built a model, and so it's the high achievement piece is getting to the summit. Like you set a goal, a lifetime goal of some purpose, something that's gonna make you feel like you've reached it. I've arrived, whatever that is, and that arrival is gonna give me something that I'm lacking, because it's all about striving. So we have survival is the base, and the climb up is striving.
Right.
And most people, we're the hustle, all this sort of stuff. We know how to strive for our goals, but what happens when you actually summit, you reach it? And what he said was, most people don't die on the way up; they die on the way down.
Ooh. Tell me why.
Well, think about the mountain. You go up, now you have the same distance to come down.
Yeah, but you don't have any energy left.
Energy, the coming down, the altitude, the cold, resources. You can only carry so much. Like there's so much. I didn't even think about the journey down.
Yeah, nobody does.
No,
Wow.
but here's where I can relate. When we
Sure.
got the gold medal, like I'm setting this goal, and first of all, it was impossible. Us getting a bronze medal in '96 was impossible. The U.S. and Brazil were the best teams in the world at the time. I was coaching the Australian team. Everybody expected the Brazilians and Americans to win, and I had an association, a coaches association in the U.S. with the California Beach Volleyball Association called Association of Beach Volleyball Coaches. We were the coaching arm. So I was working to help build up coaching and beach volleyball in the U.S. And then I got this gig coaching the Australians going into the first Olympics. So when I moved to Australia, I lost my American identity.
Right.
Even though I came back after the '96 Olympics, I came back. I had my business partners, Lucy Hahn and Heather Hafner. We were building this association. And this was my first real, it was nonprofit, building a nonprofit, really trying to make an impact through sport and through achievement, and how we can use that as a platform to promote all the other things that make a whole healthy human being who can do a sustainable and scalable journey of excellence.
Mm-hmm.
You can achieve at a high level, like the striving up the mountain.
Right.
And then what happens once you summit, like once you get a gold medal, you summit and you're standing there, and then you realize you got to come back down. So now the come back down part is sustaining it, sustainability. It's the thriving. So we have survive, strive, thrive. And we don't know how to thrive.
Mm. Mm.
We build off fear, drama, scarcity. We're competing with each other. So there's only one champion. There can only be one. You know, the winner, first loser, second loser, third loser. All of our competition mindset things are built around serving the winner, and then everyone else's role is to fit in somewhere in the hierarchy to serve, and that's how we're going to keep peace. It's not we're all going to thrive and contribute our gifts into the world.
Right.
Even our financial debt system, everything's set up so that someone's going to be poor, someone's going to be wealthy. That's just physical, monetary, whatever, right? And so what I realized when we got the gold medal and I wasn't fulfilled and I didn't feel my self-love, self-worth, all that stuff, it's all the self stuff.
Mm.
And I'm looking for it to be validated and fulfilled from external sources.
Right. And it's not coming anymore.
No external source is going to give me self-love or self-worth or self-efficacy. I gotta generate that from inside. I'm born with that. That's a God-given thing. I don't have to earn it.
Right. But you have to find it.
You have to find it and you have to believe. You got to build it because we're built for survival. And we have there's so many systems inside of us. Like I was talking about the reticular activating system, polyvagal. So our nervous system is set up so to keep us alive. Mm-hmm. Human beings, your conscious mind is not trying to help you take risk.
Right. They're trying to keep you alive.
Trying to keep you alive. So anytime you try to come above the norm, the group, that's dangerous. That's risk because people know your target.
Right.
So the temptation is to come back down, cool off, come back down to the group.
Right.
You don't go too high. You stay in that comfort zone, right? Anytime within yourself, and here's innovation. So I make all these distinctions. And here's one. I work with founders in venture capital, with the group called R3I Ventures. And you're working with founders, and so many have this imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I did a thing with the Triumph Executive MBA program, and we surveyed them, and 78%, it was 56 to 78% had this feeling of I'm going to be found out that I don't know what I'm doing. This imposter syndrome.
Right.
Innovation, you don't know what you're doing. If you're innovating, you're right on the edge of your ability and just beyond. So the commitment, the goal, it stretches you. You have to learn more. You have to be more. This is where the innovation comes from. Otherwise, you're just doing what you already know. That's not innovation.
Well, and I think right alongside that, I was doing some coaching today with the UnBreakable coaches, and one of the things that we talked about specifically is the imposter syndrome, and the reason it's no respecter of persons. Like, everybody can get there, right?
Yeah.
Because the truth is, most people are not taught identity. And if you're not taught identity and you don't know who you are, every hat feels like an imposter hat because it's not true to you, right? And when we are just in this performance without understanding of self, how can you ever feel like you're enough?
Well, here's what we talked about, the structural tension before. When you are becoming, when you're creating, innovating, when it's something new and uncertain, which is risk, it's danger, and your whole nervous system, your vagus nerve runs from your brain all the way down to your gut.
Right.
You're going to be in fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah. There's been a lot of conversation about the vagus nerve and how you can activate it to put yourself in a calming state lately. Have you heard much about that?
Yeah. Well, I've got some competitive advantages and helping people expand their perception of safety, especially high achievers, expand their perception of safety. And a lot of high achievers are perfectionists.
Right.
So perfectionists will not try something that they don't see themselves succeeding at. They just won't even entertain it. But a lot of them, the high achievers, just have such an unreasonable perception of what they can do. So they do things that other people won't attempt, and they have high skill base and all this sort of stuff. But if they can't see themselves doing it, they will not even attempt it because their ego, because they're perfectionists, they're so hard on themselves. And they can't separate expectation and identity from their performance and standards. So if they don't meet their own expectations, it becomes super painful.
That's so hard. Yeah. And that happens so much, right? People just all of a sudden they're on this track and then you lose them and you're like, what just happened? Right.
Vagal response. They lost their sense of safety. And now, I mean, it used to be, they talk about like a saber-tooth tiger chasing. I don't know if we were around when saber-tooth tigers were. I don't think the timing worked. But it used to be your life was really, at physical jeopardy. But now, social, risk, the identity.
That's become our real our real threat, right?
Yeah, your brain doesn't know when you imagine something or when you've experienced it, especially when you feel it with emotions. So people now, we have so many threats that are imagined and felt that are just, possibilities that probably won't even be realized, but we've made them real and it freezes us. We go into that vagal response where we're going to fight. And a lot of times it's inappropriate to fight your way through that. And what this looks like for business people or high achievers is they're struggling, but they'll just push through. They won't sleep. They'll push through. They'll kill their relationships. They'll kill their health. They might betray their integrity. They'll do all this stuff to get the result because the promise is at the other end of this result, everything's going to be okay. I'll arrive.
Right.
That's the summit, right? I'll arrive. And then they get it. And it's at the summit where they can see clearly, like literally on the mountain, right? They're at the goal and they're looking around. They see all the damage. And then they start asking, was it worth it? Is it worth it? Like, how come I don't feel fulfilled? Then they get bombarded because when you achieve at a high level, all you really do is like a game. You level up. People think they're going to get relief. More money is going to bring relief. More success is going to bring relief. More people in their life. No, you just get more responsibility. Now you become a steward. You can handle more stress, more pressure. You can perform. There's no relief in high achievement. If you don't delegate, if you don't buy your time back, and then all the skills and tools you learn to get there in the striving mode, the hustle striving mode, like sacrifice. This is the one thing I'm going to talk about. On the way up, and we say it, you have to sacrifice, and it's the only way to achieve. Sometimes you do have to sacrifice, but a sacrifice, you do something, and then there's no return on it. You just gave that thing away, whether it's your time, energy, love, whatever it is. You literally sacrifice that thing for another person or the mission or whatever. And there's no real return to you. It doesn't fill you up in any way. An investment might look like a sacrifice. Like when you're starting a business,
Right.
you might dedicate time. When I was in Canada and I was helping to build the program, national program there, I slept at the office a couple of days a week because it was snow. It was January. It's Canada, cold and snow, transportation. If I was there after 9 and I had to be back at 6, I might as well sleep there. So
Wow.
time away from family, all this sort of stuff. But then I had to buy my time back. So within a year and a half to 2 years, I had trained enough people. I had the right people in the right places. I was able to delegate and manage instead of me be the technician and doing all the work. And then, so I bought my time back where I could take my son to school. So I didn't have to be in the office as early. And then I could leave early and come back and pick him up at 3 o'clock after a 45-minute drive because the business was functioning. So that was an investment, even though it physically looked the same way as people do when they sacrifice. I knew there was an exit that was going to enhance me and my life and everything else that mattered once I was able to replace myself and buy my time back. So investment, you got to get a return that's higher than the initial investment, plus.
Right.
You wouldn't invest in anything else where you're just breaking even
Or going negative.
or going negative. It's a bad investment, right?
Right.
When we do our time, our energy, sleep, we make all these sacrifices and it's not sustainable. It's not scalable. So what ends up happening is people end up trapping their success. They get trapped with their success. They can't leave the business. They're making too much money. The business is too successful. Nobody else can do it but them. But they're not scaling. Their skills aren't scaling. They're just trapped and they're going to implode or explode. It's long-term thinking. So,
well, and I think, that's not just the same for high achievers, Steve. I think that's also for, say, let's people in ministry or people like, teaching and, coaching. A lot of times we will use the idea of, well, it was noble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It was noble. It was a noble gesture. It was something I needed to do. Right. When we think of the word sacrifice, how many times, okay, you were a young boy that grew up with your dad no longer in the house at 9 years old. Right. How many times did you take on the badge of sacrifice to make sure, like, it's a societal thing, right? And so people aren't really teaching investment, but they're teaching that sacrifice is noble, sacrifice is honorable, sacrifice is just, right? And
it's your obligation.
Yes, it's an obligation. If you want to be good, you have to. If you want to be, so I think we're tripping a system.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Why would you have your cake and you can't eat it?
I mean, that's just mean.
That's crazy. So I do think
if I'm on a protocol, I'm probably not going to eat the cake.
All right, we're going to do another exercise right now. We're going to play the lotto.
Okay. Who's going to win? Okay.
Well, you are. As a matter of fact, okay, so here's the rules.
All right.
I'm the lotto company.
Okay.
So I'm the lotto representative. I'm literally physically going to come to your house every week and I'm going to give you the winning lotto numbers.
Sweet.
That's awesome, right?
Sure.
I'm going to come to your house every week for the rest of your life now. For the rest of your life, every week, I'm going to come to your house and give you the winning lotto numbers. Okay. You can't use them.
Oh, Steve, can I give them to my husband?
You can't tell anybody. But here's the thing. They say knowledge is power, right? You're going to have the knowledge. But you're not going to be able to use it for your benefit. You can't know Morse code and tell anybody. But Teresa, every week. So let's do it. Let's role play. So here we are, week number 1, right? Week number 1. I'm coming to your house. The ding dong.
Hey, friend, my favorite person.
Exactly. Hey, Teresa, guess what? I'm here with the numbers.
Woohoo!
Okay, here they are. These are the winning numbers. Awesome. Okay, so make sure you watch on Friday or Saturday, whenever they do it, because it's the winning numbers. Okay.
All right.
You can't use them for your benefit, but you have this knowledge, and knowledge is power. Okay. Hey, I'll see you next week.
No, you're not going to see me next week.
No. You're like, this is our deal. My deal is I'm going to come each week and give you this knowledge every week. So, okay, next week, see you. Hey, guess what? Next week, ding dong.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Teresa, how you doing? I'm here, back again. You ready?
Yes.
Here are the
Can I have
numbers.
the numbers? Can I use them this time?
No, but I'm going to do this for the rest of your life. You're going to have all this knowledge. It's really not knowledge, it's information. Because knowledge you got to be able to use to benefit yourself in some way. But information, right? We collect all this information, especially through the information age and technology. All this information that we don't use in our life to get a benefit.
Right.
We don't transfer it from information to knowledge.
So that's really, Steve, I think when you're describing the Industrial Revolution, right? Now we're at this place, which I am so excited about, right? We're at this place, but if we don't learn to sharpen our mindset and we don't learn to do things with the tools, then we have all of the winning numbers available to us, but no capacity or skill.
This is it. It actually got stolen, so I don't have any more. I had a first generation iPad.
Oh.
And it's a little bit bigger and everything. I liked it because it's bigger than the ones. And I just, I didn't use it to its full capacity, right? I just watched movies and stuff on it and did a little stuff. But I love this iPad, and it got stolen. But here's the thing. It got to the point where, you could upgrade it. Then it got to the point where the hardware wouldn't accept an upgrade. I didn't know. So I went to go put a program on it, and it said, oh, you got to have 10 point this or higher. And the iPad wouldn't accept the upgrade. I had to buy a new iPad. Now I kept that iPad because I like the size and everything else, but there were programs. It was the function. So think about our education, religious systems, economic systems, and when Richard Nixon took the U.S. dollar off the gold standard and all this, so we had fiat currency, all these systems and stuff that are set up not to help us thrive in our lives, but to function together. That's why we need taxpayers. We need people, consumers, right? And we need people who want to spend money to keep the economy going and stuff. Hey, let's get this immigration happening so we get more people, more workers, more taxpayers.
Right.
It's so much behind the systems promoted, but then it creates all these issues because more people. Well, look at my housing prices now because all these people are coming in with income who are competing in the housing market now. Get them out of here so I can buy a house. Well, if we don't have their tax dollars and we don't have them in the work, like it's a zero sum, no win system. Right. So these antiquated systems that were great in the industrial age will not upgrade.
Wow.
Computing and AI and who we're becoming as humanity, they just don't. And this is the conflict that I'm seeing is we're trying to upgrade. Sometimes we're not even trying to upgrade. We're just trying to use the system we have and say, shut up and take it. We're going to use this system that we know.
Right.
Change. But technology, it's not. Kids, when the internet happened, there's a guy named Buckminster Fuller who said we shouldn't have poverty anymore in the world because now anyone has access to a global market. Anyone can do microfinancing and doing their own small business with 50 customers from a global market can have a decent standard of living.
But it's all here.
It's all here because the system. We're from I know competition at an Olympic level. Competition, scarcity, fear mindset makes you choke under pressure in major events.
Wow.
Yep. You have to have growth mindset, abundance mindset, and it has to be based off of love, which is your higher purpose. You can't be focused on yourself, asking yourself, am I enough? When you're confronted with trying to be the best in the world or live some higher purpose, you can't, because the answer is no, you're not enough.
Right. Wow. Steve, I was already incredibly excited about, Unbreakable Champions, but just going through this talk today, even just lights another fire in me about what it is that we're creating. And I am just honored and so grateful that you are taking this brilliance to the next level and that you are so forward focused, not just on Steve Anderson, but the world. Like you want to see this transformation because it's legacy, right? This is legacy. And, those that are operating out of an antiquated system that is not capable of upgrades will keep us living in a poverty place or get us there faster than we've ever been, right? We see this emergence of AI and this beautiful, system renovation or whatever we want to call it. But if we have nothing bringing the human up, there's extinction from all levels.
What happens to a computer when the hardware can't run the program? It's not fast enough. Even if your internet connection is not fast enough to run it crashes.
You might keep the screen, but everything else is gone.
You can't run, it won't function. And that's society. We know this. This has happened throughout history where, all great societies, what do? They end up imploding or exploding, whether it's through war or disease or the political situation, whatever it is. It's super, super difficult to keep the same system and infrastructure without upgrading, without evolving, functioning. Mm-hmm. When you have people evolving, situations evolving,
right?
Like in sport, the rules change, technology change, all the nutrition, people get bigger because they have better nutrition, all this sort of, so many things change.
Right.
How am I going to use systems and things from the past and compete with the reality of today?
Right.
Same with business.
Yeah. So talk to us about what made you decide to join UnBreakable and what you're excited about with UnBreakable Champions.
So this is awesome. So first of all, thank you for creating UnBreakable and this platform. It's really awesome. And with Dr. Val and you and us building this and all the other partners that you're building with UnBreakable Finance, UnBreakable Health, all the different, there's more pieces because you have to have an unbreakable life.
Right.
And Leonardo da Vinci, I didn't know what this meant when I used it in my presentations, but I didn't know what it meant until I had to figure it out and through study and trial and error and everything else. And he's got a quote about total life performance. And I'm like, total life performance. And when you look at some of these people, they were amazing at what they did, but they were also inventors, wealthy, they had investments, like all this other stuff, that they were this complete whole person. They weren't just, their identity wasn't just this narrow one thing. And people, especially pro athletes, business people, whatever, when you have to retire or you can't do in sport, you retire at a lot earlier age than you do in business and some other areas. And then people don't know what to do with themselves.
Right.
Because they can't separate their identity or their performance, or they can't separate their performance and achievement from their identity.
Right. And that is so dangerous because without purpose, we atrophy.
We gotta be growing. You're growing or you're dying. There's no other choice. There's no standing still, even though we try to survive, right? But with UnBreakable, there's so much alignment and synergy with you, with Dr. Val, with what you're building as a platform. And this is the beautiful thing about UnBreakable Life as a whole platform. High performance has to be holistic.
Right.
Has to be total life performance. I used to think this was optional. And now I realize it's not optional. Because if I get high achievement at the sacrifice of the other important things in my life, over time, I will not be able to sustain my passion, my energy, my health, contain all the stuff that supports me as a human being to get high performance. It was not sustainable. And I get confronted and either I implode or explode. So it's high achievement without success and fulfillment is long-term losing waiting to happen. That losing is sometime out in the future. I just have to win enough. I got to stay in the game long enough to realize that I'm not going to be fulfilled through through my performance.
Right.
And people who don't get close to their end goal, they're still in striving mode. So it feels like, it was fulfilling. I got to chase my dream, even though they don't get to realize their dream.
And I think of even from a biblical place, Moses didn't enter the promised land, right? And I think that that's such an important thing. Like we can, and there's the book, 3 Feet from Gold. There's so many things. And I mean, you could write another book. And you talked about this before. I can tell you how to get on the podium, and I can tell you how to not get on the podium, right? From the Olympic perspective. Yeah. And what it feels like, right? But Steve, I am so excited because I feel like the work that you're doing, the transformational work that you've done over the last couple of decades, is priming you for this time, this season right now. And it's so interesting. You talked about your gold medal in 2000 and coming back into the US. Again, I think of that as like that future self, that future Steve that was actually birthed in you before you even came into this world, already knew you were destined for great things. But sometimes timing has to happen. That recalibration along your journey had to come to fruition before you could be used in this fullness of the capacity, right? And I am just so grateful that, that the alignment worked out, that in my healing journey and in your journey of meeting Dr. Val, like all of it coming together for such a time as this, to be able to now take your brilliance, Dr. Val's brilliance, Jerry's brilliance, and what UnBreakable brings to the table, and say, okay, now we can build champions. Whether you're a champion on the court or a champion off the court, you're a champion in life, right?
Life champion. That's it. And you asked why UnBreakable. So team of champions.
Yes.
Anything that you do that's going to have a major impact, there's no individual person who's not supported and doesn't have a excellent team around them, a team of champions to support that champion effort. Even the people who do individual stuff, they've got support teams, they've got coaches, they've got all this stuff. They've got people who contribute finance. Nobody's out farming their own food by themselves, no companionship. Human beings, we're social beings. You don't touch babies, they die. You got to pick them up and hug them and all that sort of stuff, right? Are they really? So this is who we are, right? We're meant to be together. We've just been trained to be together in a certain way so we can, obey the rules and fit into a hierarchy. And at that time, it was appropriate.
Right.
These systems functioned. They functioned. But now, it's the hardware. It's out of date. We're evolving to a space where we can get into the thriving. We can start. When you build a successful business, now it's about sustainable growth and sustainability, which is a whole different leadership, skill base, running of your business than trying to get to a place where you're building up your distribution deals and your suppliers, getting all that stuff established and functioning well and trialing it and getting it function, and then getting your brand to a place where your business is recognized. And then you got all these competitors in the market, everything's changing. So that's sustaining it and keeping that excellence over time. This is high performance. So finishing the question, it's not success to do 100% of your goals and have the rest of your life fall apart.
Right.
50%, when you look at the data, look at how high the success rate of 50% is. Right. Sounds like failure. It's like, I missed out on half. Anything that you measure and track with data, you might get 2 point this or 0.0 that or 10%. How much return do you get on your investments when you put money here or there? If you got 50% return on your financial investment, are you kidding me? You invest in that all day long.
Right.
So when you really put it into reality, what 50% means, and imagine achieving 50% of your goals and having it enhance your life. But here's the part. And this is where I think this is God's plan here. It gets us up off the couch and contribute our gifts. People say, what I do is not that important. Your family's a life champion. We're out here to work together to move humanity, the world, the universe forward, to fulfill. Work together. It's where the team of champions. It's an interdependent system.
So good.
Individually, I can do this, but us together, we can do so much more. It's like the mastermind theory, right? We can do so much more together, and we need a platform, someone with vision, leadership, and who will actually accept the risk and responsibility to build a platform where you got to employ people, pay taxes, take the people. Everybody's, I want to run a business. No, you want the benefits of a business. You
Right?
want responsibility.
You don't want to put that open door sign and take all the responsibility that goes with it, right?
People sue you, disgruntled employees and customers, all the stuff that it's not because you have a bad business, it's because this is part of doing a business.
Right.
You're going to have this stuff happen in business if you're in business long enough. And it's the same thing with any high performance. If you're at the top doing what you do and love long enough, you're going to meet all the challenges, because those challenges are the things that help shape you and upskill you for the next part of the journey. As growth, you're going to need different skills. You need a different mindset. You need to be a different person. It's the becoming. And you need to, we're not going to move. We're in that comfortable place with that structural tension. When we're comfortable, there's no incentive to grow.
Right.
There's no incentive to change, to be something else. It's either pleasure or pain. We need either something so compelling that's going to pull us forward out of our comfort, or something that looks like potential pain that's going to move us forward. But comfort, because when we're surviving, we're cool. Everything's good.
Cool. Yeah.
That's why people lose their edge when they're hungry and they're building, and then they start to reach success. Everything, they start to get a family and they're happy and everything. They lose their edge, right? Because they're like, they're not in that survival mode anymore. But when you have a higher purpose, it just transforms into it's adventure and passion. It's not scarcity and trauma and drama.
Right.
It's move you forward. It's serving and the mission and the purpose. It actually takes you to a whole nother level of performance that's sustainable, because the more you do, the more you can become, the more you can serve. Right. It's such a healthy way to motivate and move yourself forward.
And to thrive, like you talked about. I know that there is so much fear, and I guess we can wrap up on this point, because I do want to still keep some things ready for the conference and for our Wednesday night. Like, we're going to talk about Wednesday nights here in just a moment, but okay. When I think about where people are at mentally right now as it relates to AI, there are some people that are like stoked, they're on fire, they're like, this is the best thing since sliced bread, right? And then there's a lot of people that there's a lot of scarcity built around it, because they're thinking, well, my job may go away. But see, what you're talking about and what we're creating with UnBreakable is a transformation in the human, that we are literally taking them to that thriving place, so that when AI is at its optimal place and it's at to where it's working, we can live off of the benefits of it and thrive in the process, right?
Yeah, and there's societies that do this, and we're just not aware of them. Like, and I'll just use, like, forget about politics and all this sort of stuff, but there are places that have so much wealth from, like, oil, for example.
Sure.
And there's problems with this too. But like the citizens, education's free anywhere in the world. All your utilities and everything's free. Housing. I was in Qatar and I met a young dude who was volunteering for one of the events. They don't have to do anything. Like, everything's paid for. And he said they just want you to get educated. They want the whole population of citizens. Now there's if you're not a citizen, there's a whole different treatment and everything, right? So we always have this shadow when we start to succeed and get ahead. Instead of lifting everybody else up, we become we become the villain. And we start treating people that's why we got to be inside. You have to be prepared for the success. How are you going to use success? It's going to be with love, or is it going to be still with
control?
Yeah, control, right? So with this young guy, he was he said, look, everybody wants you to get married. So he's married. You get your house. And then 2 years into paying his mortgage or whatever, he got called in by the bank manager. And the bank manager said, oh, you've been a good boy. You've been paying your mortgage or whatever. Here, you own your house now. And the bank just gave them their house. They've got it set up to where, because there's so much wealth, and there's actually a sovereignty wealth fund or something like this. They have a name for it, where these countries, because they have so much wealth, they create all this, and it's not socialism. This is sovereignty wealth fund. So it's to help each person get out of the struggle, the survival mode, get out of the striving mode, where they can actually, as a society, they can thrive. and they can invest back into the thriving of the country. Again, this always, a lot of times these systems get misused and abused because we're so into hierarchy. And once we, once we get into this thriving, we want to be served.
Sure. Yeah.
So anybody who's not us has to move into the servant role and just support our success instead of let's make all of society thriving, which again is the competition scarcity mindset versus which I find interesting because even if there's no scarcity, so much is too much abundance that you can't spend it all.
Right.
Instead of having everyone like the non-citizens, instead of having them thriving along with everyone else, it's like, no, people like us are going to thrive and then everyone else is going to serve us. And that's how we're going to stay in power.
Isn't that what they say? Once you have enough money, you don't care about money anymore. You care about control.
Yeah. Well, the way I heard it is power and money unmask the person.
And but we are going to combat that because we are helping them become holistically healthy, right? Holistic high performance, right? Exactly. Healthy high performance.
This is it. And Carl Jung talks about it as individuation, which is integrating the light and the shadow.
Yes. I love Carl Jung. One of my favorite quotes from him, and you spoke about this earlier without necessarily quoting him, but he said, those who look outside dream. And I like to say some of those dreams are nightmares, but he says, but those who look inside awaken. And I don't know a lot about his spiritual and his religious background or any of that, but I do know this. When we look inside and we see the power, the dynamo power that's in us, we were made to thrive. We were actually created in God's image. He didn't make survival. He made thriving. We just have to reframe our mindset and do the work to recalibrate so we can get back to that place. And I know that's what we are building here. And I'm so honored to get to do that with you, my friend.
Thank you. Me too. I'm so honored and I appreciate it. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're building, and Dr. Val said this. And I hope people are going to get to know Dr. Val as well if they don't already know her.
Oh, yeah.
Talked about, the human being. I always thought the human being was like a machine. The body's a machine. She says, no, it's an ecosystem. You have your internal, external ecosystem that has to support the being human.
Right.
And when I reframed it that way, I'm like, holy crap, what am I thinking? What am I eating? It's like, who am I internally? What's my ecosystem? My thoughts, the things that I consume each day, reading, looking, thinking, especially with the shadow. Right. And I collapsed Carl Jung. I collapsed him with Freud and Darwin. I was never really interested. It's only recently where I've opened up to him and stuff. And really, I'm like, wow, this is in alignment.
Right.
With who I am and what, I don't know all of his stuff. So I don't know if there's some, agreements or misalignments, whatever, but a lot of this stuff, and I'm like, especially this individuation, this integration in harmonizing the light and the shadow. Because I've always tried to push the shadow away, thought it was this bad thing. Oh, it's dark, it's evil. No, when I'm setting a strong boundary and someone's approaching that boundary disrespectfully or whatever, it's not the light. Oh, it's okay. It's the shadow that says, don't stop.
Like, come on, shadow, let's get to work, right?
It's the gray. And so the shadow is there for a reason. Now, there is the dark part of the shadow where all that pain and all that emptiness and stuff. But even like a black hole or darkness, that's possibility. It's like the chaos it's not organized. It's like anything can happen. How are we going to organize this?
Right.
And I don't want to get into all the observation stuff and how things align, and there's just so much, but I do want to say that this is the science and religion and spirituality are not separate, and quantum mechanics, quantum physics recognizes that, hey, there are things, all the basic stuff tries to separate.
Right. Well, for control,
right? And understanding and safety, like we know what we're actually talking about.
Right.
When really we're just observing and recording what's already created. We're not creating new. If matter can't be destroyed, if it can only be transformed, not destroyed or created, I have to die.
Right.
for something new, whether that's metaphorically when I'm losing my past identity. I
Right.
can't hold on to my past identity and my future identity. The
Right.
past identity, it has to die. I have to separate. I can't keep this crap. That's insanity. Think I'm going to stay the same, get a different result.
Right.
So it
Right.
has to die. Or whether it's physical, it's part of the life cycle. I have to physically die so
Right.
that something else this energy can be transformed.
Yeah.
And so it inspires me to live well and contribute now instead of being afraid to live and fighting death and then having a miserable life and then dying anyway.
Right, right, right. So many people are there too. I think even from Dr. Val's perspective, she teaches so much about skin cells and cells in our body. They have a life cycle. Usually, every 28 days, every 11 months, we change certain, I think all of the cells in our body are like replaced every 11 months. So we have the ability to transform our bodies if we're disciplined. We have the ability to transform our mind if we're disciplined. And I think that's what it takes. And the first piece, of course, is recognizing and then learning to recalibrate. And I think, the beautiful piece about the alignment journey is once you recognize, you recalibrate, then you can return to the road, but this time with intention and with purpose. And that's what we want to see people do.
Yeah. I love your conversation. I love your conversation here because this is epigenetics, right? Think about how hard you have to work as you're literally yourselves, you're becoming a new person.
Yeah.
Okay. Think about how hard you have to work to maintain and keep your old identity.
Right.
It carries over. And I'm talking about the trauma. We hold on to in past trauma through our epigenetics and through raising our family and everything. Like this stuff it's like family heirlooms that we guard, protect, and pass to our children and give to our children. Like, this is who we are. This is our identity. This is my use. It's amazing to me how hard we work to carry.
Keep it.
Yeah.
Yes. But when you let go, I just want to say, when I let go of some trauma and I had a release and I forgave and I did all the things that I needed to do in my own situation, I came home from this particular event. And by the way, I had to go away from my normal circumstances to actually do what I needed to do, because in the middle of our life and in the middle of our mess and in the middle of our, lifestyle and habits and all of that, we don't make time for transformation. Has to be an intentional thing that we do. Right.
Yeah.
And so I went to this retreat and I literally, Steve, when I left the retreat, I literally felt like I was floating. And I think it speaks to what exactly you just said. When we are holding so tight to old identities, old belief patterns, old traumas, and even sometimes generational ones that didn't even have anything to do with us,
Exactly.
and you let it go, you literally can fly. You know what I mean? You feel so free that you can now step easy into that new place and that new identity.
Yeah. And what you were doing, you're recalling, like when you were a child, you're recalling your true being.
Yes.
You're just coming home to yourself and just fulfilling on your God-given identity, the purpose, which is purpose. Like, why am I here? And what's my contribution to the whole?
Yeah. So beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you said you love these conversations. I always get filled whenever we have them. Steve, you are going to be in Austin, Texas, Taylor, Texas, actually, in about 50 days as we kick off the first of the UnBreakable 2026 events. And that's going to be on January 29th, 30th, and 31st. And you are speaking on the stage each night. The first night is about business and, building that champion mindset in the workplace and really speaking about the transition of the industrial age to the current age that we are in, right?
Yeah, the hardware.
We got hardware. Yes, the upgrade. We got to have the upgrade. And then you'll be speaking on the life night and on the relationships night. And so I just want to say to our friends and to those watching or listening today, mark your calendars. This event is going to be so transformative. It's one of those things, just like when I went to an event in Sarasota, Florida in 2022, when my life completely transformed. I had to make a decision. You talk about investment and or versus sacrifice. Well, it could have felt like a sacrifice, but it was an investment, and my life has transformed more than tenfold from that because I transformed. And so I want to say, people, get the link, get on there, get the tickets, bring your family, love them. It's a lot more fun when you can transform together, right? And come and meet Steve in person and get to hear his brilliance and learn about what UnBreakable is doing to help people live a life of thriving instead of surviving. Steve, any last thoughts before we end this chat tonight?
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you saying that. This is my life work and my life mission, really, to share this with people. And this UnBreakable platform is like our team of champions and our partnership. Like I said, it's interdependent system instead of dependent. It just is so much more value we can offer to people through UnBreakable. And so, I talked about the structural tension, the getting rid of that past identity. Well, how do you do that? Which is what I talk about, how you actually achieve it.
Yeah.
The scarcity and the investment. But right now, that's just information.
Right.
Like, how do you actually physically stop sacrificing? What are you sacrificing?
Right.
And how do you stop sacrificing and turn that into investment?
Right.
It's actually going to help you buy your time back.
Right.
And because you have to scale, you need to focus yourself, your energy, your time on the new tasks that are going to demand of you as your business scales, as you scale, right? So how do you actually do that? So that's right now it's just information.
Right.
But how are we going to turn that into knowledge? And then how are we going to turn it into tools and resources that we can actually use to benefit ourselves in our lives? And that's where the results come from, is taking it from information to knowledge to creating tools and resources. How am I going to use these tools and resources, mental, emotional skills, strategic skills, to take action and take what I imagine, what I believe, and make it my life, my reality.
Absolutely. And we are developing all of those tools and skills for our friends, for those that are ready to get into thriving. UnBreakable Champions is going to give you all of the entry points from a foundation to optimization, because we believe that knowledge is one thing, but just like those lottery tickets, if you don't have the skills and you don't have the ability to produce with it, it just feels like torture. So we are going to give you access to the numbers and the ability to use the numbers. So friends, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Steve, for all that you bring to the table with your excellence. And you guys, we can't wait to see you on the UnBreakable conference. But until then, continue to join us with the UnBreakable Enterprises, all the ways we can be connected. God bless you, friends. Thank you, Steve. And we look forward to seeing you all soon.
That's right. Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you.